How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Hello, America. It's Eric Erickson here. The third hour of the program, we can move beyond the Swift-Kelsey engagement news. There's more happening in the world than that. But the media is going to obsess with it for the next 24 hours and probably drown out most other conversations. The phone number 877-973-7425. Get to your phone calls here in a bit. But first, I got to talk about this crime situation in Chicago. Now, a lot of stuff is being blown out of proportion. So the president has suggested he's going to send National Guard soldiers to Chicago to deal with crime. And when you actually study what he's going to do, they're not there dealing with crime. They're actually there to deal with illegal immigrants and round up illegal aliens. But his thinking on the matter is by virtue of being there, it's going to help with crime just by having the National Guard in the city, on the south side of the city where there's a lot of violence. That's going to help crime. Now, an interesting thing happened at the Democratic National Committee yesterday. They're having their meeting. They're all just like super wackadoo progressives there. They did their land acknowledgement. They booed a resolution that related to Israel having a right to its own nation state. And they had a briefing on a presentation on polling. And in the polling, they argued that the phrase serious about safety is better messaging than tough on crime. And Dave Weigel, a reporter for, I think, where is he now? Semaphore? Got this. Let me read for you the slide. When given a choice, voters overwhelmingly favor a serious about safety approach over tough on crime. This is from a YouGov May 2025 national survey commissioned by Vera Action. Even if neither is exactly right, which of the following statements comes closest to your view? We should do more to get tough on crime, like having tougher sentences for people convicted of violent crimes, maintaining strong bail laws to keep dangerous people in jail, and providing police with more support and resources. 40%. 60%. We should fully fund things that are proven to create safe communities, like good schools, jobs, and affordable housing, and help prevent crime by increasing treatment for mental health and drug addiction, and by getting illegal guns off the streets. Now, let me just tell you here, as someone who used to do polling for a living, that's a terrible polling operation. You were essentially asking two separate things, and which statement comes closest to your view? Well, I want good schools and jobs and affordable housing, and want to prevent crime by increasing treatment for mental health and drug addiction, or we need tougher sentences on people convicted of violent crimes, maintaining strong bail laws, and providing police with more support. Which comes closest to your view? We should do more to get tough on crime, or we should do things that are proven to create safe communities. Well, I want to do things that are proven to create communities. You're essentially taking two positions, claiming that they're related to each other and claiming, well, this works better than that, except it doesn't work. Now, first of all, you should know, who is Vera Action that conducted this polling? Vera Action is a dark money group funded by George Soros. George Soros' organization, now run by Alex Soros, very progressive son of George Soros, is the largest donor for Vera Action, and they are committed to the progressive cause about cashless bail and we need mental health reforms and we need more social workers than police, all this sort of stuff. For multiple years now, Vera Action has been selling Democrats soft on crime talking points, claiming that more and more people like them. And in fact, they've been rejected. And I noticed something on Morning Joe this morning. They had on the mayor of Chicago, and Joe Scarborough is definitely to the left of where he was. And he would say that the Republicans have moved. No, I think both have moved. Joe has definitely moved to the left. And there's a thing that happens that I appreciate about watching Morning Joe, Joe Scarborough, when he starts pushing ever so gently back against the left. It should be a warning sign to the left that you got problems. It should be a warning sign. He very gently raises red flags for Democrats, saying this is a problem. All he did today on his program was he interviewed the mayor of Chicago. And he asked him a simple question that the mayor of Chicago could not answer. Just listen to this exchange.
So let me ask you, Mr. Mayor, those all sound like great programs. I'm curious, would you also like to get federal funding to help put 5,000 more cops on the street in Chicago? Would that help drive down crime?
Well, look, policing by itself is not the full strategy.
No, I understand that. You've talked about the other things you want, and I said those are good and important programs, but I'm asking also, would 5,000 more police officers on the street in Chicago be helpful to go along with all of those social programs that a lot of cities are engaging in and having success with?
Well, look, here's the best way I can put it, Joe, is that in the 90s when I was in high school, we had 3,000 more police officers and we had 900 people being murdered every single year in Chicago. It's just not policing alone. Of course, we want more detectives.
I know it's not policing alone, but I know it's not policing alone. You've told me everything else you want. I'm curious, and this does come down to an ideological difference between people. Do you believe that the streets of Chicago would be safer if there were more uniformed police officers on the streets of Chicago?
I believe the city of Chicago and cities across America would be safer if we actually had, affordable housing. Look,
okay, I'm not saying that's not the question I asked.
And it goes on and on and on from there. Notice the mayor's response, affordable housing. This gets back to the Vera Action, which is the progressive group funded by the Soros organization, that they believe the talking point is we need safe communities, good schools, jobs, and affordable housing. And then they don't want to answer, do you want to be tough on crime? They don't want to answer that question. They dance around that question. By the way, if you text Eric to 33777, I've got that in the show notes today. You can see it for yourself. You can see it for yourself. The Democrats don't want to answer the question. They simply do not want to admit they don't want police. It should be a very simple question, shouldn't it? Would it help you reduce crime if you had the money for 5,000 more police officers in Chicago? All he's asking you is, would it help you? He's not asking you, do you want the money? He's not asking you, are you going to lobby for the money? He's not asking you where the money's coming from. He's just asking, would it help if you had more police on the streets? Would it keep Chicago safe? And the mayor of Chicago, who is a progressive leftist, he can't answer the question. So the president of the United States is going to send National Guard troops to Chicago. Now, they're not actually there for a law enforcement function. That's the way they're being talked about by the administration, but it's actually for illegal immigration roundup. See, the police in Chicago are prohibited from working with the federal government on detaining illegal immigrants. So the National Guard, because it's a federal issue, the National Guard can go in and perform that role. And the mayor of Chicago and the governor of Illinois cannot stop the president of the United States from sending the National Guard in for a federal function. They can't stop him. What's going to happen here? You got the mayor of Chicago who can't even acknowledge that people are unsafe in Chicago. He can't acknowledge that police would be a good thing. It's just going to show the rest of America how bad on crime the Democrats continue to be. This is a resident of Chicago interviewed on TV, I think on News Nation.
Our children can't walk around the community without fear of being hurt or kidnapped or having a drive-by. So it's what these numbers that they're expressing, we don't feel it in our quality of life.
Don't feel it in the quality of life. The numbers they're expressing, we don't feel it in the quality of life. Same thing happening in Washington. You got, what is it? It's white people who are progressives on television insisting crime is down, and black residents going on TV saying, we don't feel that. Not only that, you got listen to this. This is Jennifer McClellan, a congresswoman from Virginia.
What ICE is doing is not making us safe. The Trump administration is treating immigrants, generally, undocumented immigrants specifically, as criminals. But I remind people, being an undocumented immigrant is not a crime.
Actually, it is. And notice she says they're treating Democrats, specifically undocumented immigrants. So apparently, if you're an illegal alien, you're a Democrat. And she says it's not a crime, and it is, and most people know it is, and the Democrats just can't be truthful about it. My friends who are Democrats who are hate listening right now, this doesn't end well for you. It doesn't end well for you. If you're not willing to be tough on crime, the voters will reject you. If you're not willing to make people feel safe in their homes and their neighborhoods, the voters are going to reject you. They did this in 2024. You insisted everything was fine. You insisted everything was fine. And voters knew it wasn't true. See, here's the problem. I'm writing about this for World Magazine and the data on the Democrats right now, the Democratic Party collapse. See, if you are a high-income earner and you're white and you have advanced degrees, you are more likely than not progressive. And you live in a neighborhood with other white high-income earning progressives, and you have the highest employment rate in the country, you have the lowest crime in your neighborhoods, and you are least affected by inflation. So you can say crime is not bad, and the economy is good, and inflation is okay, and the rest of America is hurting. And what has happened is more and more Americans, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, they are affected by crime. They are affected by inflation. They do have high unemployment, and they're mad. And they've joined forces to support Donald Trump against you because you told them the country was fine, and it is for you in your lily white neighborhoods, and it's not for anybody else. That's just the reality. That's just the reality. Your progressive white enclaves may be safe, or you may not mind the crime. I mean, listen, there are progressives like the woman in Chicago who tweeted that she got her arm broken in a carjack and she still doesn't want federal help to solve crime. There are some progressives who they virtue signal about living in unsafe areas, that it's good for them. It's good for their soul or some such. It's kind of whacked out, but there you have it. Most people don't want to live like that. Most people want to be safe. And they understand that safety comes by seeing the men in blue on the streets, keeping the criminals contained and arrested and off the streets. And people on the left have forgotten that they just, there's this brokenness on the left now that they think, particularly in urban and suburban areas, that crime is just a side effect of living there. And you should have to deal with it. No American should feel unsafe in their neighborhood. No American should feel unsafe where they live. And yet the left thinks that crime is just a way of life in parts of the country. And that's not good enough for most Americans. And that's why they're voting for guys like Trump. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the nation. Tyler, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you?
Good. How you doing? It's always a pleasure to be on and speak to you.
Thank you.
I was going to talk about adding more cops in places like Chicago. They wouldn't need to do anything like that if they were actually tough on the criminals. So many cities like Chicago and D.C. and Atlanta, it's so many repeat offenders because they just let them off or give them cheap bells or whatever. And so they get back out on the street and do it all over again and again and again and again. And the money they would save if they were tough on the criminals to not need to hire more cops, they could use to have housing for the homeless and this, that, and the other to better the communities. But it all starts with being tough on the criminals with the district attorney and stuff.
Yeah, look, there are a lot of cities that could use more police, but you're right as well that the DAs matter. And it's been interesting how in a lot of states around the country, the progressive DAs that were funded by the Soros outfit have been losing their reelections. We had here in Georgia, in Athens, Clark County, where the young lady was murdered by the illegal alien, the local DA lost to an independent bid. Signatures collected, independent ran, and coalition of Democrats, Republicans, and independents all came together and ousted that DA who was very bad on crime. And it's happening in other parts of the country as well. It's happening down in Florida where they're ousting progressive DAs. It happened even in San Francisco, remember? They ousted in a recall the left-wing Soros-funded prosecutor there. And they've actually seen a real crackdown in crime in San Francisco. It's still bad, but it's far better than it was with that guy. It is having prosecutors who are willing to prosecute matters, but having more police does too. And a lot of communities have reduced the number of police, and also it's harder and harder to find people who want to be police because they've been savaged so much they're treated as bad guys everywhere, and people just don't want to put up with it. And who can really blame them? When you and your family's lives are threatened and harassed because you decided to serve your community as a police officer. But the more police officers there are in a community, the safer it tends to be. And having aggressive DAs who prosecute the criminals instead of tickling them and sending them away, that matters too. It's a symbiotic relationship between them. You know, Americans for Prosperity has been battling for conservative crime reforms in this country for quite a while. They are a great group. They advocate common sense conservative reforms around the country, like school choice and deregulation on businesses and lower taxes. They got activists in all 50 states. They'd love to have you involved. And right now, they're committed to a 250,000 Steps for Freedom challenge. Not you taking 250,000 steps, but 250,000 people taking one step for freedom in this country will measurably improve the country if they can get you on board. You go to afpvolunteer.com today to sign up. afpvolunteer.com. Sign up with AFP. Take just one step in your community to expand freedom in your community. They've got you a great guide on how to do it, how to participate, what they're thinking. And if you do it and 250,000 other people do it, we will have all taken some great steps for freedom in time for our 250th anniversary of a nation. Seek the welfare of the community where you live. There you'll find your welfare. That's what AFP is committed to. Go to afpvolunteer.com and sign up and take a step for freedom in your community. Take the 250,000 step challenge for freedom as we head to 250 years as a country. afpvolunteer.com. Greetings. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. We got to talk more about what we talked about yesterday. No country for old white men. It's actually kind of startling to me, the number of texts I've had, emails I've had, phone calls I've had from a couple of friends. There was the book and the movie No Country for Old Men, and it really does seem like we are no country for old white men in this country. It is a country now where the H-1B visa holders are taking jobs typically at lower wages, and they're replacing Americans. In fact, I'm hearing from more and more Americans across racial lines, I might add, not just white guys, and a few women too, that they are now being charged with training their H-1B visa replacements. They'll be let go soon once they've got the new guys up to speed. It's a wild story to hear, and we've heard these time and time again. I think Disney at one point was accused of replacing Americans with H-1B visa holders. The tech space is notorious for us. I've gotten so much feedback from people in the tech community that they lost their jobs because the company decided to bring in H-1B visa holders, and they were able to doctor the paperwork to justify it enough to be able to do it. And it brings wages down. It displaces Americans in favor of foreign immigrants, and it festers a lot of division and hostility in the country that otherwise wouldn't exist. What I am most alarmed by in all of this, though, is what appears to be a pattern and practice in companies across the board, not just technology, that if you're in your 40s and 50s and you lose your job, well, God bless you, have a nice life, don't outlive your 401k because you're not getting a new one. You're not getting a new job. I honestly, I knew that this was a thing to a degree. To the extent that it is a thing, I had no idea. I mentioned this yesterday and I don't know that the guy's going to get the job, but he had a good interview apparently. We'll see where it goes. And it is a uniquely American phenomenon, and this company's not American. So I belong to something called the Broken Tea Society. It's a golf group. I don't know this person at all. Guy lives in Nashville. Has been out of work for a while. Has a child who has some medical issues. And got to the point where he was selling some really nice golf equipment on eBay just to make money to survive because he'd had 8 different interviews. Same thing happened. Gets to the final interview, highly qualified, overly qualified. Young white woman in California gets on the call, realizes he actually is a 40-year-old white male, and that's the end of that. No job. The same pattern happens with WorkDay. You know, WorkDay is that HR software that there's now a massive lawsuit against WorkDay that if you were rejected from a one WorkDay job, you were going to be rejected from every one. And I know people who have applied to dozens and dozens of jobs. And in one guy in the lawsuit, 80 jobs rejected from every single one without so much as a callback. And it appears the allegation is the WorkDay algorithm. If you were rejected from one job because you were middle-aged white, you're going to be rejected from every other job that uses WorkDay. Even though they're separate companies on separate systems, the algorithm crosses across the plane. At least that's the allegation. It's unproven. But it's enough that a judge is proceeding with the lawsuit, and it could be a class action of 10 to 15 million people against this WorkDay company. The algorithms are blocking people, and when the algorithms are not blocking people, it's the young white HR heads with the pronouns in their signature line who are blocking people, and the targets tend to be middle-aged people, not just men, but mostly white men in this country. And it's not just the name of diversity. The thinking is that they hire someone who's in their 20s. They're going to be able to train that person in their ways, but also they can replace the middle-aged white people of America with the H-1B visa holders from abroad and get skill sets for less. The white people are too expensive. The black people are too if they're American. Something's got to give on this because we are an emotional people. We're in an emotional age. We're in postmodern times. That's a fancy way of saying we live in an age where people are guided not by reason and logic, but by their emotions. Logic doesn't matter anymore. And people more and more on both sides of the aisle and outside of politics altogether are willing to cut off their nose to spite their face. And if we have industries in this country where it is easier to replace an American with a foreigner for the same work, for cheaper, Americans are going to tear down the H-1B visa system, and it's starting to happen. Companies are their own worst enemy. I had a conversation with a friend of mine this morning, and we have a mutual friend who is unquestionably conservative, who is arguing now that profit is bad, that the desire for profit is a bad thing. The desire for profit is actually a very good thing. It's the desire of money that's the bad thing. And that's a hard thing to nuance with people. When you make a good or product or you offer a service, you should get rewarded for it, and you're in an arm's length transaction with someone else, and you can make a lot of money. If your desire is for the money and not for the good or service, that's the problem. If you enjoy your business and you make good money, God bless you. The profit motive is actually the thing that keeps society working. Everyone wants your money. Some people just lie about it and mask it as some noble intention, but really it's all about money at the end of the day when it comes to basic economics and vilifying people who want to profit. That's not a good thing, and it's happening. Now, where I vilify people when it comes to the economy like this, and a lot of hedge funds and private equity companies like this, is that money and profit are the byproduct. In a free market system, the money is the byproduct that you want. It's like the honey is the byproduct of the bees system, and we want the honey, we want the money. Yeah, it rhymes. It's not intended to be, but money's the byproduct. What is the product? Well, an actual product, a physical good or service that you are selling to someone in an arm's length transaction. And how do you arrange that transaction? You arrange it by barter so that you get something from them. And if there is no barter, a service or good from them in exchange for your good or service, it's money. And you use that money then to go get the good or service that guy didn't have that you want. Money's the byproduct. And the acquisition of the growth of the money because your service or your good is so valuable, people are willing to pay a lot of money or trade a lot for it. That's actually a good thing. You've improved your service. You've improved your product to make it more valuable so you get more money. Everyone benefits. People may spend more money, but now they get an even more valuable, useful good or service. The problem is in like private equity and hedge funds where money is the product. They are taking a company that makes a good or service and they're finding a way to monetize the company. And yeah, I do think that's wrong. There are a list of companies in this country that make inferior products now because the hedge funds and the private equity companies decided that they could produce an inferior product, rely on the reputation of the company as they devalued the product, still make the same amount of money. And then when the company went broke, well, they've structured it so they can cash out and still make money. That, I think, is a problem because it's taken money from being the byproduct to the product. Increasingly, companies are treating human beings as expendable and ancillary commodities in a business. That's why I think AI is a problem. You know, yesterday I used AI to help me with my afternoon podcast, and it actually I was so busy arguing with it, so I used a ChatGPT yesterday, and it wanted to tell me that Kimber Abrego Garcia is a legal alien in the United States. It's like, no, he's not. He's an illegal alien. And it insisted that he was. And I spent so much time arguing about it that I missed it change some of my words about cashless bail into President Trump getting rid of cash bail. It's like I didn't even catch it. It's like, no, he's getting rid of cashless bail. And I put that in that he's getting rid of cashless bail in addition to the AI telling me that Abrego Garcia is a legal citizen. It changed Trump's getting rid of cashless bail to cash bail, and I missed it. And that just tells me AI is not where it should be. It's still a garbage product, and yet companies are thinking they can get rid of human beings and rely on a flawed AI system because human beings are no longer valued in a lot of companies. Value is breaking down. And it's a problem. It's a real problem. And we've gotten to the point now in this country where companies are telling middle-aged men and women who have families, you're no longer valuable here. We want the H-1B visa holder because they're cheap labor. And those men and women are also something called a voter. The H-1B visa holder is not. And those men and women who are losing their jobs and unable to find new jobs because companies, for the sake of diversity or cheap labor, are hiring H-1B visa holders, they're going to burn that system to the ground, and the companies are going to get what they deserve. We're all going to be worse off for it because the H-1B visa system actually does play a good role in this country, supplementing labor in this country, but too many companies, particularly in the tech sector, are using it to erase local labor, not supplement local labor. And I got to tell you, it's going to hurt us, but I'm totally going to understand it. Completely going to understand the problem. I'm completely going to understand the anger of the American citizens who decide a pox on all your houses and burn it down to the ground. I'm horrified to learn how big a problem this is. I'm still getting phone calls from people. I'm still getting emails from people. I'm still getting text messages and direct messages and private messages from people who are sitting on the sidelines, a lot of them in the tech industry, saying my job got replaced with an H-1B visa holder and I can't find new work. And I'm in my 40s and they tell me they want someone younger, or I'm too costly, or I'm too white. The companies of America have a good thing going, and that good thing is going to come crashing down. We're starting to see it happen with even Republicans. Howard Lutnick, by the way, in a cabinet meeting just a short time ago, said that the federal government should start taking ownership of patents in universities and in other instances. That's just the government grab is going to stifle innovation, and the public's going to let it happen because the companies have stopped valuing human beings as a meaningful part of companies. If you don't value the people are going to turn against you. And those people have more votes than you collectively. And the politicians will turn on you, and we're starting to see it happen. And it's unfortunate because it's going to drag our economy into the gutter. But I can see it coming. It's unfortunate. It really is that companies just no longer value having people. Now, I got to tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them, save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. It's an air purifier, so it gets rid of dust, it gets rid of pollen, it gets rid of pet dander floating in the air. It generates plasma, which kills 99.9% of bacteria and viruses that flow through it, and then it pushes ozone out into the space that it's cleaning, and that ozone latches onto ionized particles you know as odors and neutralizes those odors. It wipes them out. I used it on my back porch the other night because the window was cracked. I didn't realize that I had the smoker on, and the back porch, we got it glassed in, and it got really smoky, smelled like the ribs I was smoking, which I was fine with, my wife not so much. Fired up the Eden Pure Thunderstorm, and it just wiped out the odors. It smelled like clean air in the back, no more smoke odor. It works. I keep one in my travel bag. They're small. You can plug it into the wall, plug it in with a USB cord, and you get 3 of them and save $200. Eden Pure Deals. Eden like the Garden of Eden. Pure as the driven snow. EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. I want to end here a little bit TMI, too much information, too much personal information. You know, I am struggling to eat better and lose weight and get in shape. And I go to the gym and I do CrossFit because I like CrossFit more than just regular exercises. I put a gym in my office and I get on the treadmill and it's working slowly but surely. But y'all, I do not like to eat salads and whatnot. And now that I have braces, it's even worse eating leafy vegetables and stuff like that. But I do recognize the need to be in better shape. And I think that I enjoy CrossFit more than just I get bored just okay, I'm gonna do my deadlift, and now I'm gonna do my squat, and now I'm gonna do my bench press, and it just I work with a trainer because I'd rather do it with someone and have a little more accountability. One of the things I find weird about some CrossFit boxes is that they essentially want you to just kill yourself in the workout. I see this all the time. I follow different guys on Instagram. It's like, I'm going to give you this workout that nearly killed me, and it's do 2,000 burpees and then run 5 miles. It's just, no. But it's generally, it's not bad. And guys challenging each other to do push-ups and pull-ups and stuff, it's nothing new. And yet, this is from the New York Times. Last week, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. challenged Pete Hegseth to a test of fitness in which each of them would do 50 pull-ups and 100 push-ups in 10 minutes or less. Try to get under 5 minutes, Mr. Kennedy said of each section of the challenge while wearing a standard gym attire of a tucked-in T-shirt and jeans. The Pete and Bobby Challenge circulated online. Here's the headline, how the New York Times covered this. 100 push-ups and 50 pull-ups in under 10 minutes. What could go wrong? Fitness experts caution against jumping into a difficult routine suggested by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Pete Hegseth. Again, this is the absurd in game of the Erickson rule of the media. When Democrats are in charge, the media covers the beneficiaries of policies, and when Republicans are in charge, they cover the victims of policies. And here, they're trying to claim if you do this, you could hurt yourself. And then they generally blast CrossFit for the Murph Challenge, a CrossFit workout every Memorial Day in honor of Michael Murphy, a Navy SEAL killed in Afghanistan. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats before a second mile run. You start with a mile run, all while wearing a weighted vest to look like body armor. Not everyone. I don't do the Murph Challenge because you know what? I know my body and age and fitness level. Yesterday, I did 100 push-ups in less than 12 minutes. In less than 12 minutes, I had to do deadlifts. Well, it was snatches, really, and deadlifts. 10, 8, 6, 4, 2. Between each one, I had to do push-ups, and then I had to do hanging leg raises, hold on to a bar and with my legs dangling from the ground and pull my knees up to my stomach. And I had to do 12 of those. It amounted to 100 push-ups, more than 100 hanging, and I'm fine. And I'm an out-of-shape 50-year-old. I'm fine. You're going to be fine if you get into fitness. Just don't push yourself hard. Actually, you know what? Push yourself hard, just not to the extent that you break your body. The idea, the hand-wringing, the worrying from the New York Times over this, because it's Pete Hegseth and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and if you're a longtime listener to this program, you know I don't like Kennedy at all. I like Hegseth. I don't like Kennedy. I think he's a terrible human being. But God bless him for encouraging people to get physically fit. That's actually a good thing. You want to lower healthcare costs in this country? If you're not going to give everybody free Ozempic or whatever to lose weight, actually get them physically fit. Get people doing push-ups. My son now joins me in the gym in the afternoon. He wants to be on the school golf team. He's on the tennis team, and he realized that squatting, deadlift, and bench press, they're actually going to help him. I got to tell you, I've gotten more encouraged going to the gym because I've seen how much further I drive the ball on the driving range just by upping my squats and my deadlift. And as long as I'm over my body weight on all of them, I'm happy, which I am proud to say I am. Can't let my wife out deadlift me. No way. But this is what's just stupid New York Times nonsense, discouraging people from exercising because it's political now.